What's up, guys? Welcome back, or welcome to my YouTube channel if this is your first time. This is my channel Pixie Dust and Spirit Alchemy, where we talk about all sorts of things taboo, occult, hidden, spiritual, mystical, unknown, maybe even some magical stuff in here. Thank you guys for being here. I just wanted to take this time really quick to introduce this new podcast series on my channel that I will be doing. Well, that's already begun. I didn't make an introduction to the last video that I started with my friend, but this is the introduction for my new podcast series, as well as my friend who's also doing one. But the podcast series that you will come to find on this channel will be Diving Deeper. And it is a series, a show where where myself and other occultists, sometimes just myself alone, will go into more in depth into some esoteric books. And this one is diving deeper into the Kybalion, and where we will be discussing the manifesting laws of the universe and how it relates to this ancient hermetic text. So stay tuned, guys. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up, and I hope you like what you hear. And let me know your thoughts and your feedback. And again, thanks for being here, and enjoy the video.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, guys.
I am Sarah, Fleur of Alchemy, and I'm here with my friend
Pixie Dust, and I have my own YouTube channel, Pixie Dust and Spirit Alchemy. And we are back for part 2 of our Kybalion series, or my Diving Deeper series, and Sarah's podcast series, or Secrets of the Universe.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to keep talking about kind of where we left off of the next 2 principles and how that relates to manifesting. Yeah, we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so if you watch our last podcast, we were talking about the first 2 laws of the universe from the Kybalion, and you know, it was the universe is mental and stuff. Oh, the principle of mentalism, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Is still kicking in here. The law of mentalism, universe is mental, and then the law of correspondence. And today, like you already said, we're starting where we left off.
Mm-hmm.
We're picking up where we left off last week, and that is we're going to be discussing the 2 laws of the law of vibration and polarity.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's jump right in.
All right. So I guess just to start off, or with the principle of vibration and manifesting, I feel like there's so much already that we could say just about this principle alone, because the little phrase or sentence that it has underneath the principle of vibration is nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates.
Yes.
And then, and just a kind of a funny story. I remember this is relevant, but I remember being in like 5th grade in my science class, and my teacher asked the class, I had zoned out and wasn't really paying attention, but the teacher had asked the class, we were talking about matter, and she asked the class if at the end of the day, if things were still in motion or no. And the whole class said no, because I guess that was the correct answer at the time. And I had said yes. And I was like, when no was the right answer, I was like, wow. I was so confused as a 5th grader, because I was like, that doesn't make sense, because aren't atoms always moving? Like, isn't everything just always in motion? So how can something actually be still? And I was just having this debate as a 5th grader, and but at the time I had to say that no, it's still, or whatever. Maybe my teacher was wrong, and then later on as an adult reading the Kybalion and reading the principle of vibration, I'm like, I was right, like it is technically moving. Yes. And I think even as a child, I was thinking this. But anyways, so
you were smart. But yeah. What subject? Like what class was it?
It was science class, just general like 5th grade science class. And we were learning about just atoms, I think, and matter at the time. I don't know. I don't remember a whole lot. It was a while ago, but yeah. And I just remember that was like the conclusion of the class, I guess, and like, are things at rest or are they moving? And the consensus was it's at rest, like not everything's always moving. But I'm like, that's just not true. Like, I don't have that belief now. So in the manifesting sense, that makes things easier. But
yeah, that's cool. And I asked you what subject what class it was, because if I think of chemistry, things are also in motion.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
Because usually, oh my God, I'm going to get super nerdy here, but you know,
It's okay.
chemistry nerd here. So if you think of an atom and like the outer electrons, they usually move, and that's how they attract things. Because you know, when they don't have 8 electrons, so it's like they're kind of moving. They're not really resting. That's why stuff is always reacting with each other. So, so I was like,
exactly.
Because that's literally when I think of science. When I read this, I thought of chemistry.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, that's probably closer to what it is referring to. And if we go back to what we said the last time, I mean, I was just in 5th grade science at the time, so chemistry wasn't even there yet. But Hermes Trismegistus was the father of alchemy, which is now the current, or that's the ancient version of chemistry. So that's it kind of relates to too. So,
I mean, I didn't even think of that. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I want to read a bit more of the Kybalion for everyone that is listening to us that isn't as familiar, because we're already, like, our minds are already so deep into it. So a bit more from the summary. So principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion, everything vibrates, nothing is at rest. Facts which modern science endorses, and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And yet this hermetic principle was enunciated, I hope I say that right, enunciated?
You did.
Thousands of years ago by the masters of ancient Egypt. This principle explains that the differences between different manifestations, matter, energy, mind, and even spirit, result largely from varying rates of vibration. From the all, which is pure spirit, down to the grossest form of matter, all is in vibration. The higher the vibration, the higher the position in the scale. The vibration of spirit is at such an infinite rate of intensity and rapidity that it is practically at rest, just as a rapidly moving wheel seems to be motionless. And at the other end of the scale, there are gross forms of matter whose vibrations are so low as to seem at rest. Between these poles, there are millions of varying degrees of vibration, from corpuscle to and electron, atom and molecule, to worlds and universes. Everything is in vibratory motion. This is also true on the planes of energy and force, which are but varying degrees of vibration, and also on the mental planes, whose states depend upon vibration, and even on the spiritual planes. An understanding of this principle with the appropriate formulas enables Hermetic students to control their own mental vibrations as well as those of others. The masters also apply this principle to the conquering of natural phenomena in various ways. He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power, says one of the old writers. Okay, now I read the whole summary, but
yeah, that's okay.
That was important.
Yeah, it was. Now it was short enough too. So yeah, I just highlighted that last sentence, that he who understands the the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power. And in my head, I'm picturing like a mage with a staff, like a magical staff, like almost with an orb at the end, kind of like the magician card in the tarot deck. Maybe I think it's and that he can just kind of control, or I don't know, that he can affect the vibrations with his scepter. I don't know. That's kind of where my thoughts went with that. But
that's a nice mental picture. Yeah, I see where you're going. Yeah, and the law of vibration, actually in the new agey community, like this is talked about a lot. Most law of attraction teachers, they talk about the law of vibration. So it's always like raise your vibration, and they make it seem like much more simple than it actually is. But it's a very important law, and also it reminds us, because everything's always in motion. Before we jumped on this podcast, I was thinking how many people in life, especially when you're not familiar with this law, like when you feel stuck, you feel like nothing ever changes, but that's not true.
Mm.
Because, you know, sometimes your individual perception, like if you don't advance in life, you have the same job and the same spouse and the same daily routine, and then seem like nothing is changing, but that's not actually true. So
yeah, and I mean, we have to make that choice to change, you know, like we always have the option to do that, to create that change. And you know, I myself have felt stuck on this hamster wheel cycle, you know, before, or just felt like there's no way out, you know, that stuckness. But it comes, I think we have to gain the realization that we have the scepter in our hand, you know, like we have the power basically. And there's also this other little passage later on in the book that still relates to vibration, but I came across it earlier and I just wanted to share it too. So it's kind of just a little more in depth on vibration, and it's like, the Hermetic teachings go much farther than those do of modern science. They teach that all manifestation of thought, emotion, reason, will, or desire, or any mental state or condition are accompanied by vibrations, a portion of which are thrown off and which tend to affect the minds of other persons by induction. So it just straight up says right there that like our thoughts and emotions are like everything that we are energetically is accompanied by vibration, you know. And I'm also reading, I think I mentioned too in the last video, there's a book called, or there's an author called Robert Monroe, and he's written several books on, like, the Gateway Project from the CIA is based off of his books on astral travel. And he has one, and when he discusses his like journeys out of body and stuff, he talks about just like he has to almost get in this vibratory state in order to like lift his second body out of his physical body. And so I don't know, it's just interesting when you read things like that after having read the Kybalion or having knowledge of it, where you can just see it manifest in different ways, and even like higher level ways, because not too many people have been able to recreate the same experience or experiments that he has with his like astral traveling abilities. So, but it's definitely powerful, like the vibrations.
Sorry, what do you want to say?
Oh no, well, I was just gonna say really quick, I like what you said, that it's not as easy as people think, you know, because that's true. I mean, just because we have the power to change things doesn't mean that it is an obvious way or easy by any means.
Also, you know, a lot of people like actually I want to say something about this, because I think stuff gets misinterpreted a lot, because vibration, so therefore a lot of these law of attraction teachers, they assume that you have to be in a high vibration. Okay, here's the thing though, and this is something that I have done and that I have seen people do firsthand. Like with energy, like if you want to manifest something, and like the intensity of that manifestation, meaning how far away is that from your current state, you know, it's going to require energy if it's more difficult. But what a lot of people disregard, they act like you have to be in a high vibe, and a high vibe automatically means that you're in this great mood, whatever. But what they disregard, and I know you're very familiar with emotional transmutation too, is that you can transmute other states that are not necessarily like happy and blah, blah, like, don't get me wrong, like if you just feel really good and if you have a lot of gratitude in yourself and stuff, that definitely helps with to attract things such as prosperity and money. I have seen some things like with mental transmutation where you can literally transmute a negative state if it's an intense state, you know. So you can transmute stuff as anger. And I know it doesn't sound as like nice as saying, oh, you have to be super happy always to receive your manifestation, but this is bullshit anyways. And it regards that fact, because you can definitely transmute other states into manifestation. Yes. For example, anger, if it's intense, because that's a lot, it's a strong emotion, it's a lot of energy, and if you can transmute that, you can transmute that into a manifestation too. Yes. And me, I just see that more on a scale as intensity. And
Yeah,
that's why this works. And like,
I agree.
I also think of society, like, I don't know how to say it, but like sometimes stuff that affect a lot of people, when someone has an effect on a lot of people, if you think of a lot of, I don't want to say celebrities, because it's not only celebrities, it's just sometimes it's something intense about them that they do, and they evoke an intense reaction or emotion in society.
I'm sorry if you can hear like people mowing out there, by the way. It's like my apartment complex. I'm like, oh no. So
oh, there was like, when we started talking, there was like a helicopter here.
Okay, cool. So
Something. But I know I don't want to get like off track, but maybe you know what I'm saying, because what I'm trying to say, vibration high doesn't have to equal happy. It can be another intense emotion, and a lot of people benefit from. Okay, let me give you an example, because this sounds like maybe really far out there, but
I know
the Asian Kardashians.
What was that? Repeat. What did you say?
I think of the Kardashian family, and I personally, I can't stand that family. I can't stand the family at all. I think that, but they get so much attention and so much negative attention. I feel like in some ways it is like when you as a person get a lot of attention like that, that is an energy that you then have available. Yeah. Does that make sense? Or even, oh my God, like I don't want to get into politics, but Donald Trump, like he evoked so much negative emotion from people. And I do feel like it gives the individual power. And not in the obvious media sense, but like literal energy, you know what I mean? In a higher sense. So yeah. Exactly. And it keeps those people in power because, or with that power, because they're celebrities, and they're not going to be celebrities if nobody's observing them and giving them that energy in the first place, you know? So, and to kind of go with what you were saying earlier, I think when you were saying that anger can, you know, manifest just as powerfully, and you don't have to be happy at a high vibration, that's totally true. And I think that almost gets us into our next principle a little bit too. But I mean, if you think about all the corruption in the world, and all the people in power that have gained this power one way or another, it's like not everyone has done that by being positive the nicest person. Exactly. That's my point. And that's what like a lot of people disregard. And it's really important to understand that from an energetic perspective, because that's a lot of energy too, and it's strong. It is. And it's powerful. Yes, but so, and to call that a high vibration, like, you know, law of attraction screamers, new ages would scream at me, because they believe in this thing of like, you have to be always super happy. I don't personally believe or in this or subscribe to that like that. You know? So I think vibration, again, you can definitely transmute it. And that's very important to understand that. Yeah. I completely agree and see where you're going with that. And I think it is very much so like the new age, like, everybody be happy and everybody be, you know, everybody be love each other and whatever. And like, yeah, at the end of the day, like everybody be happy and love each other. But like, if you've seen what's going on in the world, like if you're really truly aware of everything, I mean, there's always going to be a balance of good and bad, you know, and not to say that like that's giving it an excuse to be a bad person or something, but you know, I mean, it's almost like blindsided or naive in a way to think that we can just create this like rainbow happy world or something, you know. I don't know, because, and like ideally that would be a great thing, but not everyone's awareness levels and are so different, and it would just be so hard to you know, to kind of get everybody on that same wavelength at some point. But I don't know, that there has to be balance in the universe. That's the thing. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how we feel about, because we're kind of already speaking a little bit about the second principle. So I don't know if we want to just go ahead and kind of start talking about that one too. And they kind of just all tie in. But yeah, I'll go ahead and read just like the beginning sentence for the principle of polarity. And this just kind of goes hand in hand with what you were just talking about. But it says, everything is dual. Everything has poles.
Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. And so, you know, a little further into the summary of it, it says that old paradoxes that have perplexed so many, which have been stated as follows. So thesis and antithesis. Why is that so hard to say? Thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degree. So kind of just like what you said with the anger and, you know, and positivity and manifesting, both being able to manifest, like that emotional transmutation is still going to work at whatever end of the spectrum you're on emotionally, you know. And that is what polarity is kind of saying. So I don't know, is there anything you wanted to kind of add in on this one or read about on it?
I mean, to explain it a bit more, because I know like we mentally already saw in, but our watchers, I mean, it's basically saying that like all those things like being poverty and riches or hot and cold or like it just like they're the same thing. They're just because it's a spectrum.
Yes.
Nothing is really absolute, that it's the same thing. It's just on the opposite end of each other.
Yeah. Like hot and cold are both temperatures, but they're the varying degrees. And this is such an obvious, you know, now, I mean, it hasn't been obvious my whole life, but to me now, this is such an obvious realization, but so many people are blind to it, you know. It's like, and instead of realizing that everything is a spectrum, I mean, this could be another topic too, but instead of realizing that everything is a spectrum, they look at the opposite end of the polarity as something different. And then that creates division, or can create division, you know, because then they're not, I mean, everything is a spectrum. So like, I don't know. And it's hard sometimes to accept the other end of the spectrum or whatever you're dealing with, you know, but at the end of the day, it's going to be there. But I think that the spectrum is malleable, meaning that I think it's not rigid in like, this is the end of the spectrum and this is the beginning of the spectrum. I think that it can ebb and flow kind of with, you know, humanity or with whatever laws of the universe it's going with, you know. So we can, by saying that, we have the potential to lessen the bad and raise the good, and vice versa. But we also have the potential to, you know, enlarge the bad, or, you know, and then make everything less good. So it could go both ways, but it's not just like rigid in the one little category.
But it's also motivating because again, I feel like those like this one and the vibration one, they're so strongly tied into each other, because again, back to when you feel stuck in life, you think that it's not absolute, it's just like you're somewhere in the spectrum. And also you like, how many people have gone from total super poor to like millionaire, billionaire, you know?
Right. Yeah.
You can, it's a spectrum. So, but the problem comes when you perceive yourself as an absolute, when you tell yourself, for example, that you're poor, and you think like it's this isolated thing where you can't out of, no, like it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And there's
exactly
steps in between. And it's interesting. I feel like as a society, we are getting more away from this absolute perspective a lot, because when I think of mental illness.
I'm just closing this window. Sorry.
Okay. So
need some sound, but go ahead.
When I think of a mental illness, you know how we say that someone is on the spectrum of so and so. Someone is on the spectrum of autism, and like in the middle it's like Asperger's, for example, or someone is on the spectrum with like narcissism. You know what I mean? Like you can have some narcissistic traits and not have narcissistic personality disorder. That is somewhere within the spectrum. All the traits, and then also, oh my gosh, now I'm getting all out there, but I think it's such a good example, because
it is
people that are like sociopaths or psychopaths, they are all narcissists too, but not every narcissist is a sociopath. Like,
true,
you know what I mean? So it's like it's wide range, like it's not an absolute thing. And like I said, or you can have some narcissistic traits lightly and not be a bad person, like lightly. If,
Right.
but then if you have full-blown narcissistic personality disorder, you're a fucking asshole. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. All sorts of things. Yeah.
So yeah, I
familiar with
think
some of those.
we are getting there a bit more with our perception that we express things more. Like, oh, someone is on the spectrum of this and this, and we recognize that it's not an absolute thing. Or, you know, for example, me, I think I have a bit of ADD, but not ADHD. I don't have hyperactivity, but I do have like some distraction thing going on. Not extreme either. So I'm probably on like an ADD spectrum somewhere in the beginning where I have like slights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
but like, I feel like that's also a spectrum. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. So,
yeah, but I think that was a really great example using mental illness or just mental things in general. Because first of all, they're mental. And I wonder if it's kind of like almost rude that people are able to consider a spectrum more so in the sense of like relating it to autism or something. And maybe that's not the general thoughts on it, but without the realization that everything is a spectrum, not just mental illness, you know.
yeah.
But that is a really great example, I think, because you're right, like it manifests on all sorts of degrees, and you know, yeah, and it can vary depending on whichever one, but at the end of the day, that polarity is still there. And I mean, I've been diagnosed as ADD, but I mean, I got through school without any medication or anything, and it's, you know, and I like kind of like you probably, like I can get unfocused and whatever, but
yeah, and I have worse,
it's not
good days. I have good days where I can focus for a long time, and then I have days where I'm like,
yeah,
you know, I'm taking a vitamin supplement. I have the button, like, did I just take this? Like, where's my brain?
yeah.
I forget things while I'm doing them, you know what I mean? But it's extreme a little bit.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily ADD, it's like a knack, but yeah, but I experience it too. So but let's see. So, you know, and I think it's interesting too that this principle of vibration, or the principle of polarity, and I think even the one of vibration mentioned that, okay, so I'll just read the sentence. It says, and more than this, the principle of polarity, or with the principle of polarity, it is possible to change the vibrations of hate. Oh, maybe I'm actually still on vibrations. Oh no, this is polarity. But it says it is possible to change the vibrations of hate to the vibrations of love in one's own mind and in the minds of others.
Yes. Okay. And again, that really, this is two things. The second one is telepathy, and I read something about that too. But the first one ties in with what I was saying about emotional transmutation, because you can transmute things, and you can transmute your energy, if it's a lot of energy, regardless if it's like good or bad, into something, into like your manifestation. And like you also transmute the feeling of lacking something in your life to having it, you know?
Yes.
And be okay with acknowledging the lack and transmuting it.
Yeah, accepting it, that it's just a part of life or whatever, and or part of that kind of phase, I guess. But I think it is interesting that they emphasize like that we have this ability in the minds of others too, because that is true. Like it's not necessarily an easy task, and I think that if both people have to be receptive in some way to having that done in the first place, because there's some people that you just cannot reach mentally, you know, like they're just completely stuck in their whatever, and like unbudging on either end of any sort of influence. But you know, like I myself can notice, just for example, like, I mean, I try to have like a positive energy, just thinking like at work now, and not even myself, but other people that are the more positive ones there, like we tend to like uplift people without meaning to do so, you know, and but it is just kind of a gradual change where some of the, honestly, just like the more negative people like at my job have shifted, you know, slightly. And so that's just a kind of a small example, but I think you could even do more of it, like of changing the vibrations in the minds of others, also depending on like the intimacy in the relationship, whatever relationship it is, and the level of connection, you know, and also just if you're on the same plane kind of mentally, you know, I feel like it'd be easier, like, you know, if we were having this conversation, I feel like maybe we could influence each other slightly or something, you know, with some telepathic things. But like with my next door neighbor that I never talked to, probably it might be harder. I don't know. Maybe it depends on how easily influenced the person's energy field is. So.
I think you can easily influence people even if you don't talk to them. I mean, there's a lot of techniques for doing that. Like one thing.
That's true. Yeah.
Controversial now, especially on my channel, because that's not like these types of things I haven't talked about on my channel yet. But like, influence, like one way to influence people that you don't talk to, or if you want it.
Okay, that's true. Now, there are ways
to reach out to you and you haven't talked to them in front. Like you can do it. Like one very important thing is that they're asleep, and you can really implant your thoughts into their minds and influence them.
True. Okay, this is true. Yeah, now that we're talking more about it, I'm like, all right, yeah, and maybe it would almost be easier with somebody you don't know, and it depends probably on circumstances, because there's no preset thoughts or you know, obstructions in the way of you accessing their whatever, you know, their mental field. But yeah, I don't know, it's interesting, and it just kind of concludes that humanity is still the all, you know, like we're still connected. Like we're not as individual as we feel at times, even though we're told to like express our own individuality, because we are individuals to an extent, but underneath it all, like we all came from the same place more or less, and we're all, you know, we're all just here for the ride. Like we're all more connected than we realize. And
I'm searching for it in the book now, because they talk telepathy with this principle. I'm trying to find this, and I don't find it. Hold on. So yeah, I can't find it now, but what I marked in the book, what, you know, is really important. So a knowledge of the existence of this great hermetic principle will enable the student to better understand his own mental states and those of other people. He will see that these states are all matters of degree. In seeing thus, he will be able to raise or lower the vibration at will, to change his mental pulse and thus be master of his mental states instead of being their servant and slave. And by his knowledge, he will be able to aid his fellows intelligently, and by the appropriate methods, change the polarity when the same is desired. So.
Yeah. And then on the end of it, it says, in short, the art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy. So yeah, it's pretty much, kind of aligns with that. But I don't know. I really do like just reading. I know we have a lot to go in this book still, but I just remember when I read it the first time, it was almost like it was things that I already knew and as to be truth, but this book just made me realize it, you know, or something. Like it was like, oh yeah, like that makes sense, you know, duh. But now I can like put words behind it and like think more in depth about what that actually means. And you know, like you said, you just agreed, and I think a couple other people I've talked to have had the same sort of feeling where it's like, and there's actually a quote unrelated to the Kybalion. I think it's by like Galileo or something, and it's like more or less like all truths are easy to understand, but the trick is to like discover them or something, or like understanding them. So, and you know, but it's like once we kind of get to that point of like where we're ready and willing to observe the truth, it'll be easy to understand. But it's getting to that point first of like the discovery of that truth, I guess. And that's kind of what I think about with this book is it's like, you know, I've mentioned it. I don't do it as much, but I have mentioned this book to a couple of friends, just because I know that they would probably be interested. Like I have another friend who has a tattoo that has as above, so below, but it's not in Latin. And I've told her, I'm like, have you read the Kybalion? Like, yeah, it is. And I don't think she's gotten to it. I don't think she has. And, you know, I'm not trying to force this onto her spiritual journey or anything.
Well, if she has a tattoo, then she should, like, you know, dive.
I know. I'm like, you should
where this came from.
Yeah. And and she's actually a chiropractor, and I guess she told me a little bit about her chiropractic. In chiropractic philosophy, they use that as above, so below, as the body, so the soul, to kind of align, I don't know, with all the healing.
I like that. It's cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And I'm not the chiropractor, but she can, like, there's a whole philosophy behind it, which is really interesting. And same with like acupuncture and kind of more holistic medicines or healings. But yeah, and where was I going with that? Or just that just the as above, so below. And it's like, this is, I feel like not a whole lot of people know about this book, but maybe that if they did, like, they would understand it too. Like, I don't know what people's general thoughts about this book are. Like, when I was introduced to it, I was already into this sort of stuff, like spirituality and just manifesting, so it was kind of right aligned with what I liked to learn about. But I don't know, it's, I don't want to like disrupt somebody else's course, but kind of act it as like, here, if you ever get the chance, I recommend this.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, and what you say, I do think that like our higher selves, they know all of this, and that's why when we read this, then it's like, yeah, like my soul, my higher self kind of already knew this, and
exactly.
Like, it's in our conscious mind. And since I was talking so much about transmutation, I just found something else in the text.
Oh yeah.
And a mental scientist bringing his own mind up to the desired vibration by his trained will, thus obtaining the desired polarization in his own case, then produces a similar mental state in the other by induction, the result being that the vibrations are raised and the person polarizes toward the positive end of the scale instead toward the negative, and his fear and other negative emotions are transmuted to courage and similar positive mental states. A little study will show you that these mental changes are nearly all along the line of polarization, the change being one of degree rather than of kind. So.
Interesting. Okay. I like, because I saw that induction sentence in the book somewhere. I don't know where, I kind of lost it now, but that is interesting. And I just kind of looked up induction, the word, on dictionary.com just to see what it means. And I don't really know if this is actually accurate to kind of what we're talking about. But it says like the process or action of bringing about or giving rise to something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Induce, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. Or here, if you go into the mathematics version, it says the production of an electric or magnetic state by the proximity without contact of an electrified or magnetized body. And I've heard of that, like when you hear about whatever in life, when you hear about electric currents and stuff, you'll hear the term induction. But I think that could also relate to the magnetic and electric states of humans that we are somewhat aware of, like just the electric energies that we carry, and kind of goes more in line with manifesting. But yeah, I'll stop looking at more of those definitions. But yeah, where was that on the page? Was that in the summary, or was that in the...
No, it's not in the summary. It's like later
Okay.
in the book.
Gotcha. No worries.
When it goes into, and then it's on the last page of the summer of this chapter.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. But that's kind of also what I was saying earlier, like we can raise and lower these vibrations, and therefore raising and lowering kind of the ends of the spectrum as well. But it's hard when I guess when it's one person that does it, it can act as a ripple effect, but it's so much stronger when there's multiple people that are consciously doing this kind of stuff, and I think, like, for me, as somebody that manifests or tries to manifest, like going back to the anger versus the emotional transmutation, I know a lot of people are comfortable in anger and like to sit in their negative emotions. And if they prefer to manifest from there, then, go for it. All power to them, but for me, like, that's just not really, I don't like to live my life in a negative frame of mind, all the time. And so I don't try to manifest from that sort. But at the same time, I feel like after having successfully manifested things in the past, we need to become way more conscious of our day-to-day thoughts in general, because if we get any form of stuck in a bad mental state, or like a stagnancy mindset, or then that will kind of unconsciously start to manifest, even if we're not trying to get it to manifest with that energy, you know? Like,
oh yeah, like that's like story of my life. Like
yeah.
I'm a very strong manifester, but the downside of it is that when I'm in a bad mood or having a bad day, that I manifest so much bullshit like within 24 hours, and it's like, God. And you know, then it's different, because I'm not sitting there trying to transmute anything. It's just
Right.
when I'm having
It's just
a really bad
coming.
day, like it all comes down all at once, and I'm like,
Yeah.
like I need to get, that's why. But I'm by nature a very positive person, so you know,
Yeah.
I don't really get stuck, and I know how to manipulate myself to get out of things. I don't get stuck in negative cycles. And
That's
that's
good.
what I mean, like I don't like, the thing is, I was just trying to create awareness that you can manifest from negative emotions. But again, when I transmute the emotion of lack, then after I will be in a positive state anyways, and I don't on to like negative emotions. And like when I do, and once I transmute them, they're transmuted, then I'm no longer in this negative state anyways, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm that's funny. That's kind of the same way with me, is, you know, like the times that I do get in those bad days, it's like it's like that magnetic energy. It just starts, like, it feels it, so it just comes at you. It's like,
that's crazy.
I didn't mean for this to happen.
Yeah, it's a problem when you're like a strong manifester. Like it is obvious.
Yeah. And then it's almost like, why can't I manifest the good things this easily, you know? But I think they come more gradually, and it's probably also because the good things that we're trying to manifest are gonna not just come as rapidly, because you know, we're not trying to manifest something that takes like less than 24 hours. You know, it's a gradual manifestation depending on what it is. I don't know, I guess it could come a little quicker, but it's just important to kind of be aware of our mindset, like at all times, you know, just that mindfulness in general, especially when manifesting, because like once you get more confident as manifestors and successful, like it doesn't go away. I feel like, you know, like I don't feel like we become less able to manifest even after we've done it for so long. If anything, we become more aware of our manifesting powers. So, you know,
because we're tapped in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're in the source, we're in the all, I guess. And I don't know, I mean, speaking to myself too when I say these things, you know, because I'm still human, you know, and I have my bad days and good days. And but you know, like that's where meditation can be a good tool or technique, or just whatever is sort of like a grounding ritual to kind of get you back into yourself, and away from any fears or worries, you know. So but yeah, is there anything else that you want to kind of say about the polarity chapter, or
I was about to
vibration?
ask you if you want to have anything you want to comment. Otherwise, I feel like we can cut it here for today, because digest anyways. And I like this doing like 2 principles or 2 chapters at a time. Digest.
Exactly. Yeah, I do too. And I think these two really tie in together well. I mean, they all do, and we'll kind of go more into depth on all of them too with this series. But yeah, I think that's a good kind of stopping place for today and stuff. And hopefully, you know, the viewers I think they would hopefully get something from this as well. So
I hope so too. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this, and see you. I mean, we'll be doing this once a week, so
so be ready. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, let us know what you think.
Let us know in the comments what your experiences are and about these principles. I want to read comments about experiences.
Yes, me too. Yeah, we're open to feedback and comments, you know. So yeah, but this was a pleasure though. It always is. And you know, I look forward to doing it the next time as well. So next week.
Yeah. So okay, guys, see you soon.
Bye guys. Thanks for watching.